Hi there. Right. Many people have been asking about pressure point knockouts and how are they done, one, and two, when they're demonstrated, how come we're only tapping very, very lightly, and three, the most ridiculous question is, would you do it like that in a real fight? Okay, I'll address the most ridiculous one first. Of course not. Okay, now we'll go back. Okay. How are they done and how do they work and stuff like this? Okay, well, it's very important to understand. I'm going to address everything all in one go. It's very important to understand that when we demonstrate a pressure point knockout, it's very, very simple. We are demonstrating. Now, there's a huge difference between demonstration speed and power, training speed and power, sparring speed and power, open sparring speed and power, and full-on fight mode speed and power. To give you an example, if you're demonstrating a roundhouse kick to the head, you don't boot somebody in the head as hard as you possibly can to demonstrate the effectiveness of a roundhouse kick to the head. You will teach the technique, people will learn it, and if you've done traditional martial arts, you'll know that you control these kicks as they're coming into the head and you pull them on and off, so you get that snap on and off. You practice power on the bag and on pads. In sparring, you might put it in a little bit, and in a fight, you'll whack it in. And it's the same with pressure points. When you're practicing a pressure point knockout, you don't hit somebody as hard as you possibly can. The key to being able to do it and understand it properly is to achieve somebody wobbling, losing their sense of balance, losing the sense of where they are, maybe even falling over, maybe even being like a TKO type situation for a second or two, with the lightest of touches, the lightest of strikes. If you can do it with the very lightest of strikes, then you truly understand how and why the points work, and you're able to deliver. I'm going to say this, it sounds a bit esoteric, but I don't mean it that way. You're able to deliver the right kind of energy in the right kind of way. Now, when I talk about energy, I'm not talking about some mystical force or anything like that. I'm talking about your mindset being correct, your delivery method being correct, so that you're imparting energy, the force of the strike, in the right way, the right manner to achieve the desired result. Now, at very low power, you need to be very, very accurate, and that is part of your training for accuracy, which I've mentioned before many times. Once you understand that, and you're able in training at demonstration speed and power to be to be accurate with your strikes, to get the right angle and direction for the very best effect, and a lot of this is negated when you start adding speed and power back in, but to get the right angle and direction at very low power levels and to achieve the desired result, then you know that you're on the right track and that you're going to be able to apply these when the need arises. Now, being able to apply these when the need arises presupposes that you already have a decent delivery system. So, to give you another example of what I mean by that, if you've got the strongest right hook in the world, but it's that telegraphed, that slow, and you're that bad at delivering it, that you can only land it on a bag. If there was a moving human being in front of you, they would just get out of the way every single time. Then it does not matter how powerful that strike is. If you've got a less powerful strike, but you're able to land it most times, then I would always go for that option. So you must have your own delivery system in place to be able to land that pressure point knockout. Now, how do you achieve that? Well, you must have the correct training methodology, like I keep saying, to have your distance, your timing, your movement and everything else, and all your striking stuff must be in place. Then you can add the points to it. Now, I mentioned previously about speed and power starting to negate the need for accuracy. And that's absolutely true. Because many of the points that you would go for knockouts and stuff like this, blah, blah, many of these places are very close together. Here, 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 etc. Now, done correctly at very low power levels, you will need to be very accurate where you go to achieve the knockout. Increase the power, increase the ferocity and the venom of your strike, and you don't need to be so accurate. You wouldn't be going tap tap in a fight. You'd be going punch punch, hammer hammer, whatever it is, slap, whatever. So you'd be delivering big impact in the right place. And that is the key to really being able to use them when it counts for your own protection, or if you're a sports fighter in a sports fight. Now, the bigger the glove, then the more difficult it is to be exactly on the point, because if you imagine a knuckle landing, it's only this big, but once you put an MMA glove on, you've got a bigger surface area. Once you put on boxing gloves, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 ounce boxing gloves, it's a bigger and bigger surface area that's landing on the target. So you've got less chance of being as accurate. So you need to train your accuracy and train your angle and direction. Now, I find that angle and direction is the problem that most people have. They are doing their strikes in a certain way, which may well be decent strikes, but they're not angled correctly. The direction isn't correct to get the best result. And that's something that you need to really, really train and work on. When I'm doing bag work, for example, I don't just hit the bag hard or try to get the best strike going. Of course, I'm trying to do that, but at the same time, I'm thinking about what is my target? What would I be trying to achieve with that strike? Rather than just throwing a big right hand at the bag, going, yeah, that was a good right hand. I want to be throwing that right hand with an intention in mind. I'll be visualizing what it is that I'm striking, whether it be the front of the jaw, the side of the jaw, whatever it may be, and visualizing the way that strike goes in, and the angle and direction of it, and my movement around the bag, so that I'm constantly, always trying to ensure that I'm visualizing correctly what I'm actually doing. And that's a very, very strong factor in getting this stuff right. Because if you do your bag work correctly, which I'm a great believer in, bag work as opposed to pads, but that's another story. But if you do your bag work correctly, and you've got your timing, your distance, your movement and everything else, and you're visualizing what you're doing, and when you throw that strike, you're visualizing where it's hitting, the angle and direction that's hitting, and the effect that you're after. Now, many boxers talk about turning a punch over at the end of the strike, things like that, and something like that is extremely important, especially when you're going for points and stuff like this. When I say points, I mean pressure points, not points fighting. So you must visualize it properly. You must have that in your mind very, very strongly, exactly what you're doing with your striking. Don't just hit the bag and treat it as a workout. You can do that, but at the same time, you should be visualizing what you're doing to make sure that you're getting the very best from your workout. Anyway, if you've got any more questions, let me know, and I'll be keen to address them for you. Oh, before we do that, another thing. I just want to address that. Would you use any of these silly little things, tapping and prodding in a fight? If you actually think that we would, you're an idiot, and I can't even be bothered to debate it with you, okay? If you think that's how somebody would really train for a fight, you're more stupid than I can possibly imagine. So I'll give a short answer, no. But my longer answer is, are you really that dumb? Okay. Again, thanks for watching, and speak soon.